Kim by Rudyard Kipling. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Kim by Rudyard Kipling, read by Adrian Pretzelis. Chapter 13, Part 2. On the second day the road rose steeply to a grass spur above the forest, and it was here, about sunset, that they came across an aged lama, but they called him a bonze, sitting cross-legged above a mysterious chart held down by stones, which he was explaining to a young man, evidently a neophyte, of singular though unwashen beauty. The striped umbrella had been sighted half a march away, and Kim had suggested a halt till it came up to them. "Ha!" said Hurry Babu, resourceful as Puss in Boots. "That is eminent local holy man, probably subject of my royal master." "What is he doing? It is very curious." "He is expounding holy picture, all hand-worked." The two men stood bareheaded in the wash of the afternoon sunlight, low across the gold-coloured grass. The sullen coolies, glad of the check, halted and slid down their loads. "Look," said the Frenchman. "It is like a picture for the birth of a religion, the first teacher and the first disciple. Is he a Buddhist?" "Of some debased kind," the other asked. "There are no true Buddhists among the hills. But look at the folds of his drapery. Look at his eyes. How insolent! Why does this make one feel that we are so young a people?" The speaker struck passionately at a tall weed. "We have nowhere left our mark yet. Nowhere. That, do you understand, is what disquiets me." He scowled at the placid face and the monumental calm of the pose. "Have patience. We shall make your mark together, we and you young people. Meantime, draw his picture." The Babu advanced loftily, his back out of all keeping with his deferential speech or his wink towards Kim. "Holy One, these be Sahibs. My medicines cured one of a flux, and I go into Simla to oversee his recovery. They wish to see thy picture." "To heal the sick is always good. This is the wheel of life," said the lama. "The same I showed thee in the hut at Ziglar when the rain fell." "And to hear thee expound it." The lama's eyes lightened at the prospect of new listeners. "To expound the most excellent way is good. Have they any knowledge of Hindi, such as had the Keeper of Images?" "A little, maybe." Hereat, simply as a child engrossed with a new game, the lama threw back his head and began the full-throated invocation of the Doctor of Divinity ere he opens the full doctrine. The strangers leaned on their alpenstocks and listened. Kim, squatting humbly, watched the red sunlight on their faces and the blend and parting of their long shadows. They wore un-English leggings and curious girt-in belts that reminded him hazily of the pictures in a book at St. Xavier's Library. The Adventures of a Young Naturalist in Mexico was its name. Yes, they looked very like the wonderful M. Summicrast of that tale, and very unlike the highly unscrupulous folk of Hurry Babu's imaging. The coolies, earth-coloured and mute, crouched reverently some 20 or 30 yards away, and the Babu, the slack of his thin gear snapping like a marking flag in the chill breeze, stood by with an air of happy proprietorship. "These are the men," Hurry whispered as the ritual went on, and the two whites followed the grass blade sweeping from hell to heaven and back again. "All their books are in the large kilta with the red top. Books and reports and maps. And I have seen a king's letter that either Hillas or Bunnar has written. They guard it most carefully. They have sent nothing back from Hillas or Leh, that is sure.
"Who is with them?" "Only the Beegar coolies. They have no servants. They are so close they cook their own food." "But what am I to do?" "Wait and see. If any chance comes to me, thou wilt know where to seek for the papers." "This were better in Mahbub Ali's hands than a Bengali's," said Kim scornfully.
"There are more ways of getting to a sweetheart than butting down a wall."
See here, the hell appointed for avarice and greed, flanked upon the one side by desire and on the other by weariness."
The lama warmed to his work, and one of the strangers sketched him in the quick fading light. "That is enough," the man said at last, brusquely. "I cannot understand him, but I want that picture. He is a better artist than I. Ask him if he will sell it."
"He says, 'No, sir,'" the Babu replied.
The lama, of course, would no more have parted with his chart to a casual wayfarer than an archbishop would pawn the holy vessels of the cathedral. All Tibet is full of cheap reproductions of the wheel, but the lama was an artist as well as a wealthy abbot in his own place.
"Perhaps in 3 days or 4 or 10, if I perceive that the Sahib is a seeker and of good understanding, I may myself draw him another. But this was used for the initiation of a novice. Tell him so, Hakim."
"He wishes it now for money."
The lama shook his head slowly and began to fold up the wheel. The Russian, on his side, saw no more than an unclean old man haggling over a dirty piece of paper. He drew out a handful of rupees and snatched half jestingly at the chart, which tore in the lama's grip. A low murmur of horror went up from the coolies, some of whom were Spiti men and, by their lights, good Buddhists. The lama rose at the insult. His hand went to the heavy iron pen-case that is the priest's weapon, and the Babu danced in agony.
"Now you see why I wanted witnesses. These are highly unscrupulous people. Oh, sir, you must not hit holy man." "Jailer, he has defiled the written word."
It was too late. Before Kim could ward him off, the Russian struck the old man full on the face. Next instant he was rolling over and over downhill with Kim at his throat. The blow had waked every unknown Irish devil in the boy's blood, and the sudden fall of his enemy did the rest. The lama dropped to his knees, half stunned. The coolies, under their loads, fled up the hill as fast as plainsmen run across the level. They had seen sacrilege unspeakable, and it behooved them to get away before the gods and devils of the hills took vengeance. The Frenchman ran towards the lama, fumbling at his revolver with some notion of making him a hostage for his companion. A shower of cutting stones—hillmen are very straight shots—drove him away, and a coolie from Ao Chung snatched the lama into the stampede. All came about as swiftly as the sudden mountain darkness.
"They have taken the baggage and all of the guns,"
yelled the Frenchman, firing blindly into the twilight.
"All right, sir. All right. Don't shoot. I go to rescue," said Hurry,
pounding down the slope, cast himself bodily upon the delighted and astonished Kim, who was banging his breathless foe's head against a boulder.
"Go back to the coolies," whispered the Babu in his ear. "They have the baggage. The papers are in the kilta with the red top. But look through all. Take their papers, and specially the Murasla (King's letter). Go. The other man comes."
Kim tore uphill. A revolver bullet rang on a rock by his side, and he cowered partridge-wise.
"If you shoot," shouted Hurry, "they will descend and annihilate us. I have rescued the gentleman, sir. This is particularly dangerous."
"By Jove!" Kim was thinking hard in English. "This is damn tight place, but I think it is self-defence."
He felt in his bosom for Mahbub's gift, and uncertainly,
Save for a few practice shots in the Bikaner desert, he had never used the little gun. Pulled trigger.
"What did I say, sir?"
The Babu seemed to be in tears.
"Come down here and assist to resuscitate. We are all up a tree, I tell you."
The shots ceased. There was a sound of stumbling feet, and Kim hurried upward through the gloom, swearing like a cat or a country bred.
"Did they wound thee, chela?"
called the lama above him.
"No. And thou?"
He dived into a clump of stunted firs.
"Unhurt. Come away. We go with these folks to Shamle under the snow."
"But not before we have done justice," a voice cried. "I have got the Sahib's guns, all four. Let us go down."
"He struck the Holy One. We saw it. Our cattle will be barren. Our wives will cease to bear. The snows will slide upon us as we go home, atop of all other oppression too."
The little fir clump filled with clamouring coolies, panic-stricken and in their terror capable of anything. The man from Ao Chung clicked the breech bolt of his gun impatiently and made as to go downhill.
"Wait a little, Holy One. They cannot go far. Wait till I return," said he.
"It is this person who has suffered wrong," said the lama, his hand over his brow.
"For that very reason," was the reply.
"If this person overlooks it, your hands are clean. Moreover, ye acquire merit by obedience."
"Wait, and we will all go to Shamle together," the man insisted.
For a moment, not just so long as it needs to stuff a cartridge into a breech loader, the lama hesitated. Then he rose to his feet and laid a finger on the man's shoulder.
"Hast thou heard? I say there shall be no killing. I who was Abbot of Suchzen. Is it any lust of thine to be reborn as a rat or a snake under the eaves, a worm in the belly of the most mean beast? Is it thy wish to?"
The man from Ao Chung fell to his knees, for the voice boomed like a Tibetan devil gong.
"Aye, aye," cried the Spiti men. "Do not curse us. Do not curse us. It was but his zeal, Holy One. Put down the rifle, fool."
"Anger evil on evil. There will be no killing. Let the priest-haters go in bondage to their own acts. Just and sure is the wheel, swerving not a hair. They will be born many times in torment."
His head drooped, and he leaned heavily on Kim's shoulder.
"I have come near to great evil, chela,"
he whispered in that dead hush under the pines.
"I was tempted to loose the bullet, and truly, in Tibet, there would have been a heavy and a slow death for them. He struck me across the face, upon the flesh."
He slid to the ground, breathing heavily, and Kim could hear the overdriven heart pump and check.
"Have they hurt him to the death?"
said the Ao Chung man, while the others stood mute. Kim knelt over the body in deadly fear.
"Nay," he cried passionately. "This is only a weakness." Then he remembered that he was a white man, with a white man's camp fittings at his service. "Open the kiltas. The Sahibs may have a medicine." "Oh, then I know it," said the Ao Chung man with a laugh. "Not for 5 years was I Yanklin Sahib's shikari without knowing that medicine. I too have tasted it. Behold!" He drew from his breast a bottle of cheap whisky, such as is sold to explorers at Leh, and cleverly forced a little between the lama's teeth. "So did I when Yanklin Sahib twisted his foot beyond Astor. Aha! I have already looked into their baskets, but we will make a fair division at Shamle."
Give him a little more. It is good medicine. Feel, his heart goes better now. Lay his head down and rub a little on his chest. If he had waited quietly while I accounted for the Sahibs, this would never have come. But perhaps the Sahibs may chase us here. Then it would not be wrong to shoot them with their own guns, eh?" "One is paid, I think, already," said Kim between his teeth. "I kicked him in the groin as we went downhill. Would I had killed him!" "As well to be brave when one does not live in Rampur," said one whose hut lay within a few miles of the Rajah's rickety palace. "When we get a bad name among the Sahibs, none will employ us as shikaris any more."
"Oh, but these are not Angrezi Sahibs, not merry-minded men like Fustam Sahib or Yanklin Sahib. They are foreigners. They cannot speak Angrezi as do Sahibs." Here the lama coughed and sat up, groping for the rosary.
"There shall be no killing," he murmured. "Just is the wheel, evil on evil."
"Nay, Holy One, we are all here." The Ao chung man timidly patted his feet. "Except by thy order, no one shall be slain. Rest a while. We will make a little camp here, and later, as the moon rises, we go to Shamlegh under the snow." "After a blow," said a Spiti man sententiously, "it is best to sleep."
"There is, as it were, a dizziness at the back of my neck and a pinching in it. Let me lay my head on thy lap, Chela. I am an old man, but not free from passion. We must think of the cause of things."
"Give him a blanket. We dare not light a fire lest the Sahibs see."
"Better get away to Shamlegh. None will follow us to Shamlegh." This was the nervous Rampur man. "I have been Fustam Sahib's shikari, and I am Yanklin Sahib's shikari. I should have been with Yanklin Sahib now, but for this accursed begar." The corvée. "Let two men watch below with the guns, lest the Sahibs do more foolishness. I shall not leave this Holy One." They sat down a little apart from the lama, and, while listening a while, passed round a water pipe whose receiver was an old Day and Martin blacking bottle. The glow of the red charcoal as it went from hand to hand lit up the narrow blinking eyes, the high Chinese cheekbones, and the bull throats that melted away into the dark duffel folds round their shoulders. They looked like kobolds from some magic mime, gnomes of the hills in conclave. And while they talked, the voices of the snow waters round them diminished one by one as the night frost choked and clogged the runnels. "How he stood up against us," said a Spiti man, admiring. "I remember an old ibex out Lacta way that Dupont Sahib missed on a shoulder shot 7 seasons back, standing up just like him. Dupont Sahib was a good shakiri." "Not as good as Yanklin Sahib." The Ao chung man took a pull at the whisky bottle and passed it over. "Now hear me, unless any other man thinks he knows more." The challenge was not taken up. "We go to Shamlegh when the moon rises. There we will fairly divide the baggage between us. I am content with this new little rifle and all its cartridges." "Are the bears only bad on thy holding?" said the mate, sucking at his pipe. "No, but musk pods are worth 6 rupees apiece now, and thy women can have the canvas of the tents and some of the cooking gear. We will do all that at Shamlegh before dawn. Then we all go our ways, remembering that we have never seen or taken service with these Sahibs, who may indeed say we have stolen their baggage."
"That is well for thee, but what will our Rajah say?"
"Who is to tell him? These Sahibs who cannot speak our talk, or the Babu who for his own ends gave us money? Will he lead an army against us? What evidence will remain? That we do not need we shall throw on Shamlegh midden, where no man has yet set foot."
"Who is at Shamlegh this summer?"
The place was only a grazing centre of 3 or 4 huts. "The woman of Shamlegh. She has no love for Sahibs, as we know. The others can be pleased with little presents, and here is enough for us all." He patted the fat sides of the nearest basket. "But—" "I have said they are not true Sahibs. All their skins and heads were bought in the bazaar at Leh. I know the marks. I showed them to ye last March." "True. They were all bought skins and heads. Some had even the moth in them." That was a shrewd argument, and the Ao chung man knew his fellows. "If the worst comes to the worst, I shall tell Yanklin Sahib, who is a man of merry mind, and he will laugh. We are not doing any wrong to any Sahibs whom we know. They are priest beaters. They frightened us. We fled. Who knows where we dropped the baggage? Do you think Yanklin Sahib will permit down-country police to wander all over the hills, disturbing his game? It is a far cry from Simla to Chini, and farther from Shamle to Shamle Midden."
"So be it. But I carry the big kilta, the basket with the red top that the Sahibs pack themselves every morning. Thus it is proved," said the Shamle man adroitly, "that they are Sahibs of no account. Who ever heard of Fostum Sahib, or Yanklin Sahib, or even little Peel Sahib that sits up at nights to shoot serow? I say, who ever heard of these Sahibs coming into the hills without a down-country cook and a bearer, and all manner of well-paid, high-handed and oppressive folk in their tail? How can they make trouble? What of the kilta? Nothing. But it is full of the written word, books and papers in which they wrote, and strange instruments as of worship."
"Shamle Midden will take them all."
"True. But how if we insult the Sahibs' gods thereby? I do not like to handle the written word in that fashion, and their brass idols are beyond my comprehension. It is no plunder for simple hill folk."
"The old man still sleeps. Hist! We will wake his chela."
The Ao chung man refreshed himself and swelled with the pride of leadership.
"We have here," he whispered, "a kilta whose nature we do not know."
"But I do," said Kim cautiously. The lama drew breath in natural, easy sleep, and Kim had been thinking of Hurry's last words. As a player of the great game, he was disposed just then to reverence the Babu. "It is a kilta with a red top, full of very wonderful things, not to be handled by fools."
"I said it! I said it!" cried the bearer of that burden. "Thinkest thou it will betray us?" "Not if it be given to me. I can draw out its magic. Otherwise it will do great harm."
"A priest always takes his share."
Whisky was demoralizing the Ao chung man.
"It is no matter to me," Kim answered with the craft of his mother country. "Share it among you and see what comes."
"Not I. I was only jesting. Give the order. There is more than enough for us all. We go our way from Shamle in the dawn."
They arranged and rearranged their artless little plans for another hour, while Kim shivered with cold and pride. The humour of the situation tickled the Irish and the Oriental in his soul. Here were the emissaries of the dread Power of the North, very possibly as great in their own land as Mahbub or Colonel Creighton, suddenly smitten helpless. One of them, he privately knew, would be lame for a time. They had made promises to kings. Tonight they lay out somewhere below him, chartless, foodless, tentless, gunless, except for Hurry Babu, guideless. And this collapse of their great game, Kim wondered to whom they would report it, this panicky bolt into the night, had come about through no craft of Hurry's or contrivance of Kim's, but simply beautifully and inevitably as the capture of Mahbub's fakir friends by the zealous young policeman at Umballa.
"They are there with nothing. And, by Jove, it is cold. I am here with all their things. Oh, they will be angry. I am sorry for Hurry Babu."
Kim might have saved his pity, for though at that moment the Bengali suffered acutely in the flesh, his soul was puffed and lofty. A mile down the hill, on the edge of the pine forest, two half-frozen men, one powerfully sick at intervals, were varying mutual recriminations with the most poignant abuse of the Babu, who seemed distraught with terror. They demanded a plan of action. He explained that they were very lucky to be alive, that their coolies, if not then stalking them, had passed beyond recall, that the Rajah, his master, was 90 miles away, and so far from lending them money and a retinue for the Simla journey, would surely cast them into prison if he had heard that they had hit a priest. He enlarged on this sin and its consequences till they bade him change the subject. Their one hope, he said, was unostentatious flight from village to village till they reached civilization, and, for the 100th time, dissolved into tears, he demanded of the high stars why the Sahibs had beaten the holy man. 10 steps would have taken Hurry into the creaking gloom utterly beyond their reach, to the shelter and food of the nearest village, where glib-tongued doctors were scarce. But he preferred to endure cold, belly-pinch, bad words and occasional blows in the company of his honoured employers. Crouched against a tree trunk, he sniffed dolefully.
"And have you thought," said the uninjured man hotly, "what sort of spectacle we shall present wandering through these hills among these aborigines?"
Hurry Babu had thought of little else for some hours, but the remark was not to his address.
"We cannot wander. I can hardly walk," groaned Kim's victim.
Perhaps the holy man will be merciful in loving kindness, sir. Otherwise—
"I promised myself a peculiar pleasure in emptying my revolver into that young bonze when next we meet," was the unchristian answer.
"Revolvers? Vengeance? Bonzes?"
Hurry crouched lower. The war was breaking out afresh.
"Have you no consideration for our loss? The baggage! The baggage!"
He could hear the speaker literally dancing on the grass.
"Everything we bore, everything we have secured, our gains, 8 months' work. Do you know what that means? Decidedly, it is we who can deal with Orientals. Oh, you have done well."
They fell to it in several tongues, and Hurry smiled. Kim was with the kilters, and in the kilters lay 8 months of good diplomacy. There was no means of communicating with the boy, but he could be trusted. For the rest, Hurry could so stage manage the journey through the hills that Hilás, Bunnar, and 300 miles of hill roads should tell the tale for a generation. Men who cannot control their own coolies are little respected in the hills, and the hillman has a very keen sense of humour.
if I had done it myself, thought Hurry, it would not have been better. And by Jove, now I think of it, of course I arranged it myself. How quick I have been! Just when I ran downhill, I thought it. The outrage was accidental, but only me could have worked it. Ah, for all it was damn well worth. Consider the moral effect upon these ignorant people. No treaties, no papers, no written documents at all, and me to interpret for them. How I shall laugh with the Colonel. I wish I had their papers also, but you cannot occupy 2 places in space simultaneously. That is axiomatic.
End of Chapter 13.